Oh yeah. What's up? What's up? How's it going, everyone? So today I wanted to talk about Jay-Z is in the news, Dr. Professor Jay-Z. And I also wanted to talk about AI. And as the title suggests, I want to talk about AI first. So we'll go from AI all the way to Jay-Z. So we're going to cover the whole gamut, the whole gamut, the whole alphabet. It's not a very good joke, but feel free to leave any comments so I can respond to them in real time. I am here. I exist. This is happening currently. And definitely give me a heads up about anything else you'd like to discuss. Otherwise, I am hanging out, drinking fermented, what is this, kombucha? Ginger kombucha. So there definitely is some aspect of me that is hippie-esque, but I don't know. Someone told me this is good for me. It's alive cultures. So they create these little guys in here. They create a little village in your belly, and I'm only adding to that society right now. So once these guys get down there, there might be some conflict. I think they're calling it the culture wars, because there's cultures in here. Anyway, so yeah, we already lost someone from the chat. That makes sense. But more importantly, this is supposed to be interactive. So anyone who's in here, say what's up. Hello. Say what's up. Let me know who you are, where you're from, what you doing, what's your home address and your mother's maiden name. Give me the last four of your social. Let's chat. So one thing I did want to update people on is this woman in Iran who was famously pictured holding her hijab in protest. Recently, she was arrested. I mentioned it on my last live stream. She has not been released, and no one knows where she is. And after doing a little bit of research, I wasn't able to find her, unfortunately, but I read many articles and instances of women who were jailed for the same law and routinely beaten as they were imprisoned. And this is it's just very disappointing to me, and you know, it's something I just want to bring light to, and reiterate that we have it pretty damn good here in the West, and people aren't beaten and jailed by a theocratic government like they are in Iran over here. So let's be thankful about that. And if you're religious, pray for her. But more importantly, I think post the hashtag where is she. Just make it known. There's only so much you can do unless you go to Iran or have Iranian friends or something like that. But I would just recommend talking to people about it, so that if we can't save people like her that are currently locked up, we can at least expand our perception of what's happening in the world. Hey, what's up? Enjoyed your videos from the Women's March. Hope you woke up some of the zombies. Hey, all right. Princess83, thanks for commenting. Hope I woke up some of the zombies. I wonder if I did. I think that luckily I engaged a few people who were quite reasonable and willing to have a discussion. And so let's certainly not assume that most of these people are zombies. I think we're all ignorant to a degree. But I definitely think that I was able to challenge a few of them with what I believe to be logical and rational discussion and the Socratic method. But I'm sure they could do the same with me. I actually put on a pin. I put on a pin that I was given. There were people promoting the show Viceland, which I think is an offshoot of Vice News, and they gave me the pin, and they also gave me someone gave me a rose, and then I put it in my ear. So I essentially looked like one of them, and I think that helped me kind of go undercover in a sense. Not that I disagree with everything they have to say, but I'm talking about. Hey Jack, what's up? I'm talking about the Women's March, and how I was kind of incognito there. And if you watch the videos, or if you've seen the videos, then you know, or you will know that I tried to kind of ease in as far as humor goes, and I didn't want to make people angry necessarily. I just wanted to see how far I could push certain narratives in satire. But yeah, without I just wanted to see how far I could go, and some of the stereotypes that I was playing off through satire, a lot of people didn't realize that I was joking. And I mean, you can go back and watch the videos, but I had a good time. I shouldn't say that. It's not like I was sitting there partying with everybody, but it was very ridiculous. Your approach and demeanor helped, I'm sure. Trolling them like some others do doesn't help. Yeah, I'm not. I don't want to necessarily come across as the bad guy. I just want to come across as a good person who has different viewpoints, and I just want to talk to people and have a logical explanation. More than anything, the older I get, the more I'm trying to be willing to admit that I'm wrong if I am. And I think it's called dissent. But also, I notice that I may be becoming more rigid in my beliefs the older I get as well, or at least I notice that with others. And if I'm like anyone else, a human being, which I am, that seems to be almost inevitable. Like the older you get, the more rigid in your beliefs you are. I actually need to Google dissent. This is sad. I just gotta make sure I've used the word a million times. The expression or holding of opinions at variance with those previously common or officially held. Yeah, that's good. That works for me. That worked for me. Tried to get them to contradict themselves. Yeah, I don't know if I set out to do that, Jack, but I definitely see that as a possibly effective way of arguing. So like if someone brings up, I don't know, the gun debate, which I had a discussion with one lady about, or man, I don't want to misgender her, ZG. That joke is getting tiresome too, because it's only half of a joke. Like if I actually did that at the march, you guarantee someone would call me out for it. But like I was having a gun debate with this one lady, and she kept bringing up that we need stricter gun laws, and we need stricter gun laws, and I tried to tell her a few times, we have relatively strict gun laws in most of the states, especially the more liberal states, the blue states. But 70% of the gun crimes in this country are done. Don't quote me on that number, but this is the last that I heard. 70% of the gun crimes in this country are committed using illegally obtained weapons or handguns or both. I can't remember, but either way, the point is, a lot of the very, very vehemently anti-gun, anti-Second Amendment types will go after automatic rifles or semi-automatic rifles, even though semi-automatic is essentially just like pistols are semi-automatic. So they don't realize that. They think if they see this gigantic AR-15 that it's completely different, that it's some sort of hugely destructive force akin to a Gatling gun or something like that. But it's really just a bigger, more accurate handgun. A lot of people don't realize that, and it has a higher magazine capacity, of course. And of course, you could buy a bump stock, and you can make a bump stock. But I'm kind of running off on a tangent here. But the point is, when you start bringing up certain statistics to them, then they become they sink deeper into that cognitive bias, and then they just let their emotions kind of trump the statistics. But yeah, getting them to think. Yeah, so what's up with you guys? Where are you guys at? Jack, you're in DC, I know that. Trying to get material for a show. Aren't most mass shootings perpetrated with handguns? Yeah, I don't know about mass shootings, but the majority of the shootings in America are using handguns, and I think I'll look it up. I think most of the shootings with handguns are using illegally owned weapons. But thank you guys for being here. Small but effective. 80% of guns used in mass shootings obtained legally. Okay, well that's not what I'm looking for, but that makes sense. Mass shooting, sure. All right, well, of course I'm going to get... I don't think I typed it in correctly here. Anyway, that's not exactly what I wanted to talk about, but as far as the Women's March goes, had a good time. Good time. I danced with some people. I taught some people the Ruth Bader Ginsburg shuffle, which I'm still perfecting. It's a dance that one of our great Supreme Court justices. Anyway, so where in SoCal are you, Princess? Jack, do you know about the mass shooting in Australia that caused them to give up their guns? I've heard about it. I think it took place in the 80s. And then there was a sort of a mandate to collect all these guns, and the government would pay for it or something like that. I think there's quite a few differences. First, they don't have a Second Amendment in Australia. Third, they have less than 1/10 the population of the United States. And then fourth, I think there's probably quite a few less weapons in general, guns in general in Australia. So those are some pivotal differences. But I don't necessarily disagree with those rulings. San Bernardino County. Okay, I've been to San Bernardino. Is it it's not the Slugs. That's the college out there, right? What am I thinking of? San Bernardino. It's nice out there, though. Super nice. Yeah, I also wanted to see if any of you guys knew about CRISPR, CRISPR, and Cas9. It's the gene editing software. So I think they're going to start trials on humans, if I'm not mistaken, pretty soon, which is really crazy because the hypothetical outcome is we could essentially edit genes to prevent Alzheimer's, diabetes, just hypothetically and theoretically anything. I'm pretty excited to see the future of that. But we're in this sort of quiet arms race too with countries like China, and I think that's gonna be the case with artificial intelligence as well. You have a friend working at NIH working on CRISPR. Yeah, man, it's cool stuff. And then speaking of competition with China, about as far as competition with China goes, they've just cloned monkeys. So they use the same method as they used to create Dolly the sheep, back in the day. Jacqueline Rendell, hi, how are you? Thanks for joining. I'm talking about CRISPR-Cas9 gene editing and the recent clone of monkeys. So they're long-tailed macaques, these monkeys in China that were cloned. Their names are Zongzong and Huahua. They're pretty cute, actually, if you Google them, or if you don't Google them, they're still cute. But yeah, China just cloned these things. Oh, what's up, Entropic? No, not talking. No, definitely not. Yeah, talking about these monkeys that they cloned in China, and we're just kind of, I don't know. I don't feel like this is getting enough attention. I know the New York Times has written an article and so on, but we're so enthralled with Trump on a daily basis here with the mainstream media, and it's just like there's so much crazy shit going on in the fucking world right now. So much. You've got CRISPR-Cas9 gene editing. You've got monkeys being cloned. What's next? Humans, most likely. You've got artificial intelligence on the rise. I mean, there's just a plethora of crazy stuff going on right now, and we're talking about Trump. Why is it a big deal that they're cloning monkeys? Been doing it for a while. Well, because the next step is humans, essentially, and that could cause some confusion here and there. I think, especially if you're like, imagine if you were born and raised by parents, and then you're 25 years old, and they sit you down and they say, actually, you're not our child, you're a clone. Have fun with that. You can get your dead pets cloned. Yeah, it's fucking, yeah. In fact, I think a buddy of mine's friends paid thousands of dollars. It was somewhere, I think, between $5,000 and $20,000 to have their dog cloned. And to my knowledge, it was just like, it wasn't even, it looked like the dog, but it didn't act like that. It wasn't the same dog, and there was something off about it. And, it kind of reminds me of the uncanny valley, which is the concept in artificial intelligence where like the clones, or the cyborgs or just artificial intelligence, artificial general intelligence becomes so close to that of human where it's almost indistinguishable. But when you're in the uncanny valley, as far as artificial intelligence goes, you still know that something, the humans still know that there's something strange, there's something uncanny about it. So what a lot of futurists like Ray Kurzweil and some of these experts on artificial intelligence are hoping to do is to have artificial intelligence come out of the uncanny valley where we're almost identical to an artificially created method of intelligence, general intelligence, which is pretty fucking scary if you ask me, man. Uncanny. I don't know if do you guys watch that show Westworld? It's a pretty good one. Yeah, radical life extension. There's all sorts of stuff these futurists are talking about. I don't know if you guys know about Ray Kurzweil, but he was hired by Google. I think he's their, he's not the CTO or anything, but he's the head of their life extension group, and they've got hundreds of millions of dollars of funding. Crazy. Why would AI want to hurt us, though? Yeah, I think one of the speculations is less about it wanting to hurt us and more about it becoming sentient and then considering us irrelevant. So, like, if you think about our relationship with ants, we don't go out of our way to kill them necessarily, unless you're like a sadistic little kid or whatever. But we just we just ignore them. They're kind of irrelevant. And like if we need to build a house, we'll build it right on top of them, and we won't even think twice about it. They're not even really there. And I think that's kind of like the relationship that some people may be worried about AI having towards us. And essentially what some people are questioning is, once we have a machine that can do 20,000 years of human level intellectual work in a week, it's thought about everything that humans could think of times X already, and it's done it within a couple days. So we have to just work on making sure that we build in safeguards, and I think a lot of people a lot of the experts think it's possible, but there's a computer scientist, I forgot his name, but I was watching a little panel discussion with Sam Harris talking about AI, and I think it was it Max Tegmark? I can't remember the guy's name, but basically he said, imagine that NASA received a signal from outer space that said, hey, humans, we'll be there in 50 years, get ready. Well, the way we would react to that is kind of like how we should be reacting to AI in a way, where we should really be focusing on making the necessary precautions to be safe about it. Not only that, but we're going to be neck and neck. So yeah, NASA wouldn't get it. We all would. Do you mean are you talking about a message from outer space from aliens? Yeah, NASA wouldn't get it. Well, NASA and I think SETI, which is the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence program, I think they're a subsidiary of NASA. They're the ones with these gigantic satellites throughout Nevada or wherever, and they're constantly monitoring for these possible messages. So unless some alien life wanted humans to hear it, just humans in general, your average human. Yeah, well, I don't know, man. What possible reason would aliens have to come here? The only logical reason is companionship, or resources. We've got oil, we've got all sorts of we've got all sorts of stuff. It could be resources. No. Yeah, if there are aliens, I think humans like to think that they're going to be carbon-based life forms, and that they're going to be similar to us. Where they have verbal communication skills. I mean, and so on. When you think about the fact that us humans can only see 1/10, I think, of the electromagnetic spectrum, and we live in this dimension, I think we've sort of narrowed down what we think the possibilities of an alien life form may be or could be, and we also have to consider size as relative to us in how we assume alien life forms may be. So if you consider the microscopic levels, or at least what we consider to be microscopic, we might not even see any of these creatures. They could be invisible to the human eye, or they could exist in some sort of frequencies. I mean, there's a whole bunch of possibilities that I don't think we can even really fathom. Because what's relative to us may be so vastly and preposterously different to another life form, such that we wouldn't even be able to recognize them or think of them or imagine them. And that's another thing about artificial intelligence that should be kind of worrisome, is that this machine will be able to do every bit of thinking that humans have ever done times X in a week. So all of humans' ingenuity and imagination. That's arguable, though. Billions upon billions of life forms have evolved on Earth, and only one species developed technology developing intelligence, any carbon-based intelligence. Yeah, it could be. Could be. Yeah, I'm not so worried about aliens necessarily. You know, some otherworldly creature coming to interact with us. And I wouldn't say I'm worried really at all, but I'm curious and interested in artificial general intelligence because there's only so much we can set precautionary. There's only so we can only be so precautionary. Imagine that. Jack says, imagine what we will be like in 1 million years. That would be noticeable. Yeah. Some people think that we are just here to give birth to artificial intelligence in a way. That, like, instead of God creating man, man creates God. I think that as far as the deistic religions and so on, I think it's quite clear that men created these religions, and not the other way around. So, the idea that we are the end all be all as far as an advanced species go, and then you have all these questions about ethics when it comes to artificial intelligence, which is why I recommend watching Westworld. Although there are books to read and other things, but they're not quite as entertaining, not at least to me, about the subject. But then you start asking the question of, well, what is consciousness, and what is a soul, and what are feelings, and why is your life or your existence as a machine any different than my existence as like a biological life form? If we build a machine that claims to think and feel and have all of these emotions and so on, who are we to say otherwise? And it is a serious sort of ethical question to ask, which is like, how do we value life, and how do we determine what sentience is, and what's valuable, which is definitely quite scary if you think about it. Yeah, I like your guys' comments. Really cool. There's a book by this guy, Nick Bostrom, called Superintelligence, which I listened to on tape. And I can't begin to remember all of it, but man, it's pretty fascinating. Yeah, really, really fascinating stuff. I definitely recommend reading it to all of you guys. But thanks for hanging out. So Beacom of Light, paypal.me/Beacom of Light. If any of you are able to support the channel, that'd be great. So I'm almost through editing a video that I did with just a good friend of mine, definitely a close friend, about Iran and the current political climate, as well as going over the history of Persia, and we talked about Iran pre-Islam, and we kind of traced through the history of Iran and that area geographically, from pre-Islam, post-Islam, up to the 1979 Iranian Revolution, where Ayatollah Khomeini, I believe, replaced the Shah, and Islam was essentially instilled as a theocratic form of government. And then we also talked about what's going on now, which I talked about at the start of my live stream, which is that you have many women taking off the hijabs in protest, and the younger people there are tired of it. They're fed up with the theocratic bullshit, and they want to be able to sort of join the modernity of the West. And I agree with them wholeheartedly. I think theocracy is absolutely awful. And it needs to be eradicated. And my friend whom I interviewed he's American but Iranian American, and he's been he has a degree in this stuff, and very, very informative informative guy. He works in news, and he takes it very passionately. And I think you guys will really like this interview that's coming out. So it's going to be close to 3 hours long. I think we talked for quite a while. He did most of the talking, luckily, because he's just full of information. But I'll be splitting it up into different parts. I'm pretty excited about that too. So definitely stay tuned for that. But please donate if you guys can. You guys are so awesome. The channel's growing, and you guys will be in my mind and my heart once the channel reaches a certain level. I won't forget about you guys, that's for sure. But if you can donate, paypal.me/Beacom of Light, that would be awesome. That would be awesome. Let's see here. Oh, thanks, Jack. Jack, you're awesome, man. Thank you for joining for a bit. Much appreciated. Oh, yeah. Alternate dimensions rather than heavens. Yeah, and Tropic, you've got some really great things to talk about, and a little bit of knowledge there, my friend. That's awesome. Yeah, other dimensions, man. There's all such crazy stuff. And the more I do these live streams, by the way, guys, the more succinct everything will be, and sort of less jumbled. I know I'm kind of all over the place, but there's so much I want to talk about. I don't know. Did you guys hear about Jay-Z recently being interviewed by, what's his name? Val Kilmer, Val Jones on CNN. So Jay-Z basically, shat all over Trump, of course, and I think, what did he say? He said something like President Trump is a super bug. He called him a super bug. And I think he commented on how Trump is not good for African Americans and yada yada, and it really just goes to show the sort of smugness of people that have millions of dollars. So I don't know if you guys know Gad Saad, but he's a kind of a favorite of mine. He's a professor at Concordia University. He teaches evolutionary and behavioral science up there in Canada, and he's from Lebanon originally, and seems like a really good guy, but he's also very insightful. He tweeted about Jay-Z. He said, Professor Dr. Jay-Z, along with his wife Beyonce, are true models of courage and grit. That they could withstand the suffering associated with a net worth of $1.16 billion is a testament to their capacity to overcome Donald Trump's racist policies. Obviously, that was sarcastic, but it's true. It's just funny, I mean, do you think Jay-Z goes into a bodega and has the, unless the guy doesn't know who he is? Do you think he's the guy's oh, he's about to steal something, black guy, blah blah blah? No, he doesn't. And Jay-Z doesn't shop at bodegas. He goes to fucking Saks Fifth Avenue, or he has someone do it for him. And that was just kind of a erroneous comment about bodegas. The larger picture here is, of course, there's racism in this country, but is it systemic? Is it institutional in 2018, or is it on individual levels? And also, could it be that it's more about poverty and a culture of crime or what have you that indicate someone's social status? I think that's the larger truth. But anyway, yeah. So Jay-Z, maybe stick to rapping. Maybe stick to rapping. Yeah, I don't know why people are getting their political advice from fucking celebrities nowadays. Then again, we do have Trump in office, so why not? Why don't we just let everybody's opinion be heard? Miley Cyrus, come on, let's get you in there as Secretary of State, you little runt. I feel like I'm getting old now, guys. I just called someone a runt. Oh, do not call people runts. That's not normal. But yeah, Jay-Z's funny, man. But Gad Saad's awesome. If you guys don't know him, check him out. GADSAAD, Gad Saad. His podcast is called The Sad Truth on YouTube. Very insightful. Very insightful. So what's up with everyone out there? What is new? What is new? The left is attacking Taylor Swift, saying she's aggressively white. How does that happen? I guess the Hollywood elite is mad she doesn't dump on Trump. Yeah, since wasn't there a point in this country where we could just keep our politics to ourselves in a way? I mean, I'm all for being engaged in politics and being able to speak your mind. But to be lambasted and chastised if you don't say anything negative about a certain politician is really just egregious in a way. Especially if you have, like, I could understand if you were running for office and you didn't speak your views on, or at least you didn't agree or disagree with certain policies of other politicians in the sense that you're contrasting and comparing your views with them to further your political agenda, and then being chastised or lambasted if you don't. But if you're a musician or whatever, like if you just want to keep silent, why should someone say that you have to speak out about something? Did she endorse him or something? Yeah, it is refreshing that an entertainer doesn't push their views. I'm with you 100%. Not only that, but let's be honest here. I'm gonna assume that at least half of her fans are not hipster city folk. You know, maybe the word folk is not appropriate, but I would say that probably a majority of her fans are like, you know, Midwestern kids, or you know, little girls like me, little city girls like me. I'm just mad that she has my first name, and my legs are much better. So, if you want a Taylor with a great figure, you're looking at her. They said her fan base is far. Yeah, well, there is this strange sort of witch hunt mentality, which is like if you don't, you kind of have to. There's a lot of people that think you have to put your hand up and be like, no, it wasn't me, I didn't do it. Like, what is it? He who smelt it, dealt it. Obviously, I'm a sophisticated intellectual scholar, and I got that from the DSM-5. He who smelt it, dealt it. The Freudian analysis of overt flatulence. Yeah, you know, why should people have to say, hey, look, no, I don't fucking know. Not me either. How about innocent until proven guilty? How about you're just a person? Can we remember that first? Can we remember some fucking civility? Can we remember just be? All right, I don't really care about Taylor Swift. She's doing well. Good for her. So, I don't know if you guys know this, but there was an article out recently about radical imams spewing anti-Semitism in the U.S. with impunity. That's the title. Now, I do take this with a grain of salt because it is from the New York Post, but I will, instead of reading the body of it, just cite the alleged instances of some of these guys in this country. So, one of them says, last month, for example, Imam Raed Saleh al-Rosan of Houston, Texas, preached Muslims should fight the Jews in the wake of Trump's decision, after a videotaped excerpt of his lecture was translated from Arabic by the Washington-based Middle East Media Research Institute and posted online. The imam apologized and insisted he's opposed to all forms of terrorism. Sure. Another instance. Speaking on the same day, Imam Abdullah Qadra of North Carolina invoked the same Jew-killing hadith. Then it just says in parenthesis that the hadiths are a collection of the sayings of Muhammad. So he invoked the same Jew-killing hadith, saying the Muslim prophet, quote, gave us the glad tidings that we will fight those Jews until the rocks and the trees will speak. O Muslim, this is a Jew behind me, according to MEMRI. Is that the MEMRI? Okay, I'm not sure what that is. Anyway, Islam is 600 years younger than Christianity. Christianity went through a period where and there are still some instances of people using the faith abhorrently, mostly in places like Africa. But Islam is young, where it hasn't had the same amount of time to reform. But one of the differences is that Islam doesn't allow for reformation. It is inherently unalterable. It claims to be the final and unalterable word of the Creator. There's also something called abrogation, which essentially denotes that what happens later in the Quran supersedes what happens at the beginning. Meaning, if at the beginning Muhammad says, I love trees, don't hurt anybody, and at the end he says, fucking trees, chop them all down, you're supposed to chop the trees down. So, luckily the majority of Muslims don't think this way. But again, let's say it's 1% that believe these things, even though there are Pew polls and Gallup polls I'm citing them, Pew and Gallup polls. I could put links if you guys want, that say that the number is much higher. But let's say that it's 1% that believe these things, and believe that Sharia should be the law of the land, and that Islam should rule the world in the caliphate. Well, entropic, that's exactly my point. 1% of 1.5 billion Muslims, or however many there are, is 15 million. I mean, this is a lot of people, and that's just 1%. So, you're talking about Brigitte Gabriel. Yeah, she does. She's had some fantastic speeches. The majority, the peaceful majority, are irrelevant, I think is what she said. And not irrelevant as though the people don't matter. They're irrelevant in the context of talking about theocratic rule and Islamic terror, or even just Islamism, which is another term that was coined not too long ago, which basically just means you don't necessarily commit violence or jihad, if you will, but you want to spread the faith, and you want the faith to be the faith of the world, and you're active in that. You're active in spreading the faith. I remember last year I was in the subway and I saw a very heavily bearded Muslim man preaching, doing his sort of proselytizing shtick. And I'm glad I haven't seen that again, because I really would want to try and engage in a conversation with that guy. But even just thinking about that as a possibility, I know it wouldn't go well. It would just be, I've tried to do it with other religious types. Whenever you have someone who's so vehemently dogmatic and of proselytizing, you're just not going to win an argument. You're never going to be able to talk any sense into them. So I guess I wish the left would realize that it's possible to care about people and care for their well-being while also not thinking it's best for them to live in the West until there has been a reformation in their cultures. That's it. Jacqueline, you say you're reading Strange Death of Europe. Yeah, that's Douglas Murray, right? Yeah, I really like Douglas Murray. He's fantastic. He reminds me a little bit of Christopher Hitchens. He's British, so that's a good start. But it is true, isn't it? Like, the British accent is definitely fun to listen to. Yeah, Douglas Murray. Yeah, I wish he would get out there more. I think much like Sam Harris and some others that were formerly more outspoken about Islam, it's tiring, and you're not seeing as much of it from them as you used to. And I can understand it. I haven't done nearly the same speaking on the world stage as they have, and or received threats or so on, and it's tiring, you know. But I think that one reason why so many people voted for Trump is that they agree with him on the issue of speaking out about radical Islam and speaking out about how that there are inherent problems within that faith. It doesn't mean all Muslims are bad. We know that the majority of them aren't. But you have it carries with it so much weight, and I guess I wish. I've tried to make this point before, and I'm trying to make this point in some stand-up comedy that I've been doing recently. And by the way, when I'm doing comedy, you guys better fucking come and see me. I'm going to try and get some dates traveling around. But the point I tried to make was, if you're a leftist, most of them, especially the atheistic types, have no quarrels or qualms with speaking out against Christianity or Mormonism. You know, if I have a conversation, it's so easy to be like, oh yeah, those Mormons are really fucking silly, right? You know, they believe that they found plates in the backyard and blah 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 blah, or you know, Scientologists or whatever. You can laugh at all these people all you want, but the second you start criticizing Islam, nope, off limits. If the Book of Mormon show on Broadway was called the Book of Islam, that theater, and I know it because I walk by it often, it's called the Eugene O'Neill Theater, and the Book of Mormon is a very good show, and I've seen it. That fucking place would not. I mean, they'd be reconstructing it by now. You know, so people are afraid to speak out about Islam for a couple of reasons. The soft bigotry of low expectations. They've been told that these are brown people that you can't offend. Well, the fact of the matter is, anybody can be a Muslim. It's a doctrine. A, and B, you know, they're afraid to offend, probably because they know that, or at least subconsciously they know that many of these people will chop your fucking head off if you speak out about it. They will. Not all of them. The vast majority wouldn't harm a fly. But the vast majority, like Brigitte Gabriel said, are irrelevant in the context of radical dogmatism and the deep need to spread the faith via indoctrination or violence or worse, you know, indoctrination or Islamism, just, you know, breeding and spreading it through the minds, or, you know, by the sword, which a lot of people don't realize Muhammad did in the sort of the Medina version, the Medina portion of the Quran. You know, the Quran starts off in Mecca, and then he migrates to Medina to spread the faith, and he does so by the sword. He commands that, you know, that people convert. Apparently Germans are starting to group together and protest. The backlash is happening. So I was in, last year in, I think it was June, I went to Paris, then I went to Austria, and then I went to Germany in Munich. Now when I went to Paris, and there's actually a video you guys can watch on my channel when I was in Paris. When I was in Paris, we initially stayed, I think it was in the 18th arrondissement, or however it's pronounced. Arrondissement. The arrondissement. Can you guys, excuse me, s'il vous plaît, could you, por favor, show me, please, the 18th arrondissement? Anyway, we stayed up there. And it, you know, it was startling. I mean, it didn't look anything like I thought France would look like. And you know, if I go to the Congo, I expect to see mostly African people. If I go to Norway, I expect to see mostly Norwegian people. You know, blonde, the sort of tall Viking look. If you go to China, you expect to see a lot of Chinese-looking people. And guess what? You will. Well, when I go to Paris, my thought, and I don't think this completely necessarily a bad thing to watch a demographic change as far as ethnicity goes necessarily. But when I was going to Paris, when I think of a French person, I don't think of Africans. I don't think of Middle Easterners. And again, I'm not criticizing their ethnicities. What I'm criticizing is the culture that's brought with many of them to these parts of the world, where in many ways they're fundamentally at odds with with liberty, equality, and fraternity, which are the English versions of the words that are in the French motto or what have you, some sort of creed that they have. Liberty, equality, fraternity. Well, Islam doesn't allow for liberty. It does not. And if you don't closely adhere to the tenets of Islam, and you are, you don't pray 5 times a day, and if you're a woman, you don't wear the hijab, or not necessarily that the hijab is central to Islam, but at least in the hadiths, being modest is mentioned. But I don't know. I guess the way I consider someone to be more of something than someone else who claims to be that type of person is the same way I consider someone to be more a fan of Harry Potter or something, right? So like, if you claim to be the biggest Harry Potter fan, but you don't know who Hermione is, well then you're probably not that big of a Harry Potter fan, or at least there are other people who are more of a Harry Potter fan than you are. Well, I feel the same way about Islam. If you follow, or any religion, or any doctrine for that matter, if you follow the tenets more closely, then you're more of that than someone else. Is that really debatable? I mean, you might want to create a new religion if you claim to be Muslim but you don't pray 5 times a day, and so on and so forth. And I think I was kind of ranting on there, but you guys are awesome. Hey, by the way, if anyone can support me through PayPal, I would love you very much. I love you anyway. Leave a like on this video if you like what I'm saying. If you want me to keep up with everything, leave a comment here in the live chat or on any other video, and I'll try and get back to you. But paypal.me/Beacom of Light. It really helps. I'm trying to get some. I am actually trying to get some new equipment and do some traveling and stuff. And I want to head out to some different parts of the country, let alone the world, to get other people's opinion. And as you can imagine, hearing my viewpoints that are largely in contrast with that of your average Greenwich Village resident, I would like to get out of New York and hear some other viewpoints and experience other people. So if you guys are able to, again, I hate to plead and ask over and over again, but paypal.me/Beacom of Light would really help. And you guys are so great for hanging out. I really appreciate it. Is anyone else, Entropic says, is anyone else I'm assuming you meant to say imagining angry holy men arguing over who is more. That's actually a funny skit, man. I might actually write that down and try and, listen, that's probably kind of one of the bases, or whatever the word is, for extremism. Some people were trying to prove that they were more religious than the other. Oh, no, I'm more religious than you. I care more about Allah than you. I'm writing this down. I'm not kidding. I'm gonna make a skit out of this. And where did they get that 72 virgins number? Like, that seems so arbitrary. 72? Not 71? With my current state of affairs, 1 is plenty. That was creepy? I don't know what that meant. I apologize. Yeah, so Jay-Z. Yeah, you should be offended, princess. That's what I set out for. That was another... I don't know, did you guys watch... I think Entropic, you'd mentioned something about this. Jordan Peterson and Kathy Newman, this British lady that interviewed Jordan Peterson. I mean, it was just an absolute a one-sided massacre, especially in terms of debate. I mean, this lady really tried to corner Peterson and lambast him as some sort of chauvinistic, misogynistic, sexist, whatever. I mean, it's sad. Yeah, you guys watched it. What did you? Someone said something that made me think of that. Yeah, I mean, it was like, God, I can't remember. Now I can't remember. I mean, it was just brutal. I do want to ask you guys what your take on Jordan Peterson's views on religion are, because I don't know if you guys know, but I am not a religious person, and I think that I definitely agree with Sam Harris when he says that religions are like sports. You have badminton, and then you have Muay Thai kickboxing, and it's pretty clear which sport or religion does the most damage in the world. But I agree with Jordan Peterson so much on his critique of certain leftist sort of like cultural Marxism and the groupthink and identity politics of the left, and how that's rampant in society at the moment. But one thing I have a hard time grappling with is this idea that we can only have ethics or morals. I don't know if he said we can only have them, but that having a sort of moral code or outlook is largely attainable only through religion, or just largely attainable through. I don't know. I guess that's sort of confusing me, because I'd like to think that I have a decent moral code, and I'm not a religious person, so I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on that. I think it's worth thinking about society to fall away from God and the growing degeneracy. Yeah, I think that what I'd like to see is not necessarily the replacement of, but maybe an alternative to a theistic, dogmatic, sort of, metaphysical, than the metaphysical concept of God and all this stuff. I'd rather see an alternative to that take place, which is sort of just kind of like, maybe it already exists in humanism, which is basically just, look out for your fellow men and, do unto others, if you will. Do you know the Four Arguments, Toltec Wisdom by Don Miguel Ruiz? No, I don't. Toltec. So that is is that a Mayan thing? The Toltec. Always do your best. Yeah. I've been reading a little bit about Stoicism. These guys like, I think it was it Lucretius? No. Lucretius just makes me think of someone that's like, I don't know, leaking. Oh yeah, did you see that lady on the train? She sat down and there was something just Lucretius about her. Just Lucretius. So I'll go ahead and just cancel my comedy tour that's coming up. But yeah, I don't think it was Lucretius. The famous Stoics. Epicure? Fuck. Let's see. Zeno. I'll have to cite the most famous encyclopedia of Wikipedia. Seneca and Epictetus. That's right. Yeah. So really interesting stuff. There was actually a video. So I'm a big MMA fan, and I was watching highlights of Conor McGregor because I think he's pretty cool. And there was a video on YouTube that essentially said that Conor McGregor is exemplifying stoicism, whether he's doing it consciously or not. So it's kind of like this idea that there's no reason to fret over things you can't change, that you can't do anything about. And it's difficult. It is overcoming destructive emotions and, sort of fortifying your perception in stone in a way. And it's not to be emotionless completely, but it's to understand your emotions and be able to wrangle them and control them, if you will, which is something I'm not necessarily amazing at, but a lot of people aren't very good at either. Yeah, it says, virtue consists in a will that is in agreement with nature. To be free from anger, envy, and jealousy. It's akin to Buddhism in a way, where, at least in regards to not allowing what you cannot change to affect you negatively. It's pretty cool. Too many adults can't handle their emotions nowadays. Yeah, that's right. I'm one of them. You're looking at him. Dr. Ryan Richtolfen. Hello. Hello, doctor. Are you an actual doctor? Or are you a 12-year-old girl? That wasn't meant to be offensive. It was meant to be an accurate analysis of one or the other. I gotta stop drinking this kombucha shit. It's making me crazy. You're safe here to be on PC. Yeah, good. And there one lady brought this up at the Women's March not too long ago. She was like, I appreciate your comedy and I definitely think there's too much political correctness in the world, but there is also this line where you don't want to you don't want to be politically incorrect just to push people's buttons. For the sake of it. And I would probably agree with that. I think if you're going to do that, it's important to at least have a couple of points. But thanks for joining, guys. Dude, you're saying to that old famous iodine? Yeah. So Mortem Rex says that, yeah, so there's this video where I was interviewing this lady about her poster. She had this poster. You guys probably all saw it, but she had this poster of this woman in the hijab. The American flag hijab. We've all seen it. It's really kind of painful to see that, to be honest with you, to see us fetishizing it. It's a bit silly. But I went up to her just, get her opinion. Hey, what is that? What does that mean to you? Blah, blah, blah. And she said, oh, well, this lady's wearing an American flag for a burqa. And I said, that's the hijab. And she said, hijab, or, she didn't know how to pronounce it. She didn't know what it was. And I told her the burqa is the full face covering. The hijab is what she's wearing in the photo. And she was actually actively listening to find out what it was called so she could be informed. And I was happy that she was doing that. And then this other person, I think it was biologically a woman, comes up to me and says, are you mansplaining at the Women's March? And she had this British accent, I think. And she was laughing, and some of her other friends were laughing. Yes. And I said, I can't remember what I said. She basically said, are you mansplaining at the Women's March? I was like, what is mansplaining? She was like, well, it's when people like you say to people like her. I said, well, hold on, what do you mean people like me? And I was already joking at that point, just trying to set her up to be funny there, or to at least feel kind of silly. She said, well, you, a man. I said, excuse me, I identify as a woman. And she said, well, okay. And then she walked away. And, my thoughts on people's pronouns and whatever are very easy to sum up. If you're a friend of mine or I respect you and you're not forcing me, I have no problem being civil and calling a man a woman, saying, oh, look, she, blah, 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 like Caitlyn Jenner. I'll call her she. I don't really care that much. Like, it's not that important. It's when the government starts mandating or people start forcing other people and going on witch hunts for people that don't use these words. That's when it pisses me off. And sometimes I can understand why people would, in defiance of these witch hunts, not want to do it. Oh, that's awesome. You guys are so cool. Yeah, the mansplaining thing was funny. She didn't get that I was joking. I don't know what was going on in her head, but she seemed to be kind of programmed. Cool. Tariq Atta. Hello. Hello. And Mortem Rex says, Tim Pool pointed me your way a while back. Love your work, man. Oh, thanks, man. That's so awesome. Yeah, I see your comments. I recognize your name very much. I appreciate your fandom, whatever. I appreciate that you're here and watching and everything. That's so cool. Tariq Atta says, hello, I hope all is well with you. I am a Muslim and came across your channel. Cool. What's up, man? I see, assalamu alaikum. I see you are seeking to find an alternative means to religion. I see you are seeking to find an alternative means to religion. No, I'm not seeking an alternative to religion. I am just non-religious. I see no reason to believe in God, and I see no logical reason anyway. I think that there are comforting reasons to believe in God, but I think that whenever it comes to the argument about a God, which is the basis and also the bane of every religious discussion, if you want to get down to something solid, to bedrock, if you will, intellectual bedrock, you basically end up coming to two conclusions, or at least the religious person does, and those conclusions are the God of the gaps argument, the God of the gaps argument, and the Pascal's wager. And you guys can Google those things if you want to know more about it. But Pascal's wager, many of you may know, is essentially saying like, okay, well, I don't know if there is a God or if there isn't a God when I die, but if there is, I might as well choose to believe in him while I'm on earth. So that way, if when I die there is a God, then I'm, sent to heaven. Well, that's cruel to me, and that just seems like God is playing a game. And my response to that, to Pascal's wager in that notion is with a quote by Marcus Aurelius, which is, if there are gods and they are just, then they will welcome you based on the virtues you have lived by. If there are gods and they are unjust, then you should not want to worship them. If there are no gods, then you will be gone, dead. But you may live on in the memories of your loved ones. So that kind of sums up my philosophy in a way as well, or at least my philosophy on religion and the afterlife and so on. But I also see many more reasons for there not to be a God than for there to be a God. For example, every single day on this planet, thousands of children under the age of 4 die. Many of them horrible deaths. What kind of God allows for that to happen? Take your time if you are actually considering that thought. And then you could also go on, we could talk about the God of the gaps, which is many people, this one's almost more easily debunked in that people will say, well, you don't know what happened before the Big Bang. And I'll say, you're 100% right, I have no idea. And I don't even really know why we're here. Like, I understand, I feel like I have a decent grasp of the concept of evolution and how we came from a single cell organism and evolved into this through photosynthesis and all sorts of different evolutionary processes. God, I sound like a pretentious prick when I pronounce processes like that, right? Processes over millennia. But I don't know what happened before that. And then they'll say, well, then there must be a creator. There's all sorts of arguments, and it's tedious. But it's the God of the gaps argument. It's basically when someone says, if you can't explain it, it must have been God. Ooh, well, no. My thoughts are, I don't know. You have to show me proof. I don't know if it was Bertrand Russell or Christopher Hitchens or one of those guys or both of them, and they said, what can be asserted without proof can be dismissed without proof. Seems like a pretty simple concept to me. Show me the evidence and we'll get there. And let's look for the evidence. Let's definitely do that. But most religion just wants you to kind of sit around and, wait to die, in a sense. It's like, hey, you're taken care of, blah, blah, blah. Let's ask the first question. What is epistemology? Do you mean epistemology, like the study of knowledge? Mortem Rex. That's how I used to think when raised Catholic. Remember being taught evolution is evil, etc. Happy to be atheist, but I don't push it on anyone. Empiricism is embraced by only those who choose. I don't like, I'm not gonna proselytize in the sense that like I want to force people to give up their religiosity. No, my main principle is like, don't tread on me. Don't come to my door fucking knocking trying to convert me, no matter what religion you are, especially not the big three. Scientology does seem kind of cool though. Like if I was going to convert, I'm joking, but I do want my own planet. So if you guys want to pool your money, we might be able to get there eventually. Just a small one, like Pluto sized, just a little spot. You guys can come and hang out if you want. So please, buy me a planet. But yeah, like don't tread on me. I don't want to hear it. But I do think people should be willing to have the conversations, and I feel like more people need to be taught about the Socratic method and critical thinking and logic and reason and so on. And like the fact of the matter to me is that there's no more reason to believe in a God than there is to believe in the celestial teapot or the little poop at the bottom of the ocean. I don't know if these things exist, but a little poop at the bottom of the ocean or a teapot floating around the earth in a way are actually more likely, theoretically speaking. Religion is when one person does it, it's insanity, but when millions of people do it, it's religion. If you had a buddy that came to you and said, hey man, hey Mortem Rex, I think Elvis is still alive, man. You'd say, dude, what are you talking about? You'd say, what are you talking about? Elvis is not alive. It's obvious, we know, and you'd think he was crazy. But then when millions of people say, I know what happens when you die, and that your consciousness is magically shipped off, and Allah or whomever will greet you at the pearly gates, we're all just like, oh, okay, that's his choice, blah blah blah. Well, I think that many things that are taught through religions, especially the bigger religions in this world, are extremely damaging to the young mind. Especially if you're taught that you're going to burn in eternal hellfire if you don't believe, or that there's a God that cares about what you do when you're naked. It's nonsense, and it takes away from personal freedom, and I just can't subscribe to it. I'll listen and I'll sympathize and I'll understand, but it's very difficult. Tariq Atta, by the way, I don't know if you came in here to try and convert me to Islam, but good luck. I am listening though. So you are depending on human rational intellect to understand the world around you. Yeah, well, that's all I have. Tariq, I don't know if you want to debate me on religion right now, but bring it on. By the way, while Tariq is writing whatever he can to convert me to Islam, I'm half joking. Please donate to my YouTube, to my PayPal if you can. That would really help. PayPal.me/Beacom of Light. I could use any support from you guys. I have a Patreon. It's not very well set up, but you could join that as well. Patreon.com/Beacom of Light. Leave a like on this video. Leave a like on my other videos. support me in any way you can. I'd really appreciate it. But just the fact that you guys are here is pretty freaking awesome as well. Yeah, hey, that's awesome, Tariq. Exchange of ideas. Go for it. Let's do it. On that one. Let's see what Tariq said. So we as a species are the only animal to anticipate. What does that mean, anticipate? I think there are other animals that anticipate. Meaning we have the intellectual capacity to think about the future. Yes, seems like it. Meaning worrying about future internal affairs. Also, if anyone else is reading the comments, definitely let me know what you think about what Tariq is saying as well. We also have an idea of eternity, I think is what you meant there. We have the idea and understand the concept of eternity and infinity. We are a finite species with a short lifespan. Okay? So Tariq says, why do we have the capacity to understand eternity if we are not going to be able to live for eternity? Well, I think we understand it as a concept, but you can't really understand it until you live it. So if you don't live it for eternity, you don't truly understand it. You understand it as a concept, which is a fundamental difference. But I also don't really know if I understand why that would allude to someone, to a god. Point is, if perfection doesn't exist in our reality, for example, then why do we have the idea of it? I mean, why do we have the idea of anything fictional that doesn't exist? I mean, the human imagination is quite powerful. That still doesn't answer the question of, is there a God and what happens when you die? Who created Microsoft Office? I don't know. Some knowledge is experiential then. Yeah. Bill Gates. Okay. So a computer program. Okay, this is the creator argument, the creationist argument. You'll have to explain this for me. Thinking there's a source consciousness, dozens. So the computer programmer created software to serve its purpose. Okay? Well, I hate to say it here, Tariq. I'd love to hear your argument. Please feel free to write it on my other videos, but that song was called Sleeping Beauty, and I'm getting a bit tired. So I think I'm going to call it a night with you guys here, but I love the fact that there's anybody in here at all, and you guys are so fun, and I really appreciate talking to you guys. Mortem Rex says, for all we know, there could be actually omnipotent beings like shown in Star Trek. That's to say they're gods, if that were true, rather than beings like what we're highly evolved. Yeah, I mean, so here's the problem. It's like there's something called infinite regression, which is a really good song by a band called Animals as Leaders. But it's also the concept that if there is a God, well, who created God? And then if there was a creator of that God, then it's an infinite regression. It goes back and back and back. But we could have the discussion another time. I plead ignorance on answering the question of what happens when you die and if there's a God and so on. But I have no reason to believe in one. I think we should just be good people and enjoy the ride, bro. Love you guys so much. Please donate if you can. PayPal.me/Beacom of Light. I love hanging out with you guys. $1, $100. A like on this video, a subscription to my channel, whatever you guys can do. A little smiley face emoji, those feel good too. But thanks for joining me, guys. Take care. Have a good night.